let's be honest. Change at work, it can feel like you're walking through a minefield. 1 minute you're okay, and then bam, company restructuring, or your whole workflow's upside down because of some new software.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, and then there's always that, never-ending pile of new projects that are subtly urgent.
It's true. Change really is constant.
So how do we deal with all this uncertainty?
Well, luckily, the source material for this deep dive goes right into that.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, we're looking at the Pathway to Work podcast, specifically their episode all about, well, embracing change and uncertainty.
That sounds promising.
It is. What I really liked about it is that it's super practical. They get that change can be scary, but they don't just leave you hanging with that feeling.
Okay, so what do?
They give you a whole bunch of strategies to help you, deal with all the chaos.
Okay, so what kind of strategies are we talking about?
Well, they even have this case study, right? It's about this project manager, Nina.
Okay.
And her whole company goes through this massive restructuring.
Oh, I've been there.
Right. And instead of freaking out, she focuses on what she can control.
I like her already.
Me too. She really dives into learning this new workflow, proactively talks to her manager about everything, even starts documenting all the changes for her whole team.
Wow, so she basically turned a disaster into, a leadership opportunity.
Exactly. She saw what was happening and just embraced it instead of fighting it.
That's awesome.
And that brings up one of the big things Pathway to Work talks about. Resilience.
Resilience, like bouncing back when things go wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
They make this really cool analogy. They compare it to physical training.
Oh.
They're saying just like our muscles get stronger when we push them, our resilience gets stronger when we go through challenges.
So basically every change is like a workout for our adaptability muscles.
You got it. The more we deal with change, the better we get at it.
Okay, that makes sense.
But how do we build those muscles?
Yeah. Does the podcast tell us how to do that?
They do. And it's not just fluffy advice. They have 5 really specific strategies. Reframing your perspective, focusing on what you can control, building resilience through self-care, getting better at communication, and staying curious.
Okay, let's break those down.
Yeah, let's do it.
Starting with reframing your perspective.
Okay.
What does that even mean? I feel like I hear that all the time, but it always sounds kind of vague.
Yeah, no, I get it.
How do you actually do that?
Pathway to Work says it's about changing how you talk to yourself.
Interesting.
So instead of immediately going to oh no, what if this goes wrong? You challenge yourself to ask, what if this is amazing?
Oh, I see. So looking for the good stuff,
Yeah.
even when things feel uncertain.
Exactly. It's not about ignoring the tough parts. It's about choosing to focus on what could be good.
Yeah, I can see how that would help with the whole anxiety thing.
Right. And this ties into their next strategy, focusing on what you can control.
Okay, but how do you even know what you can control when everything's changing?
That's a good question.
Where do you even start?
Pathway to Work says to take a minute and ask yourself, what parts of this are actually in my control? And what can I do to make things better?
Okay, so even when it feels like there's nothing you can do, there's usually something.
Right. It's about taking charge of your own experience instead of just letting things happen to you.
I like that. It's empowering.
And that leads us to their next strategy, building resilience through self-care.
Wait, self-care? I thought we were talking about work.
I know, right? But Pathway to Work is really clear that we can't be good at our jobs if we're totally burned out.
Makes sense.
They say taking care of yourself, things like sleep, food, exercise, actually helps you handle all the change and uncertainty.
So it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's actually part of being good at your job.
Exactly. They even say to schedule self-care time, just like you would schedule a meeting.
Wow. I never thought of it like that.
It's about making it a priority, especially when things are crazy at work.
Okay, that's a great tip. I'm going to try that.
Awesome. Now, let's talk about their 4th strategy, strengthening communication.
Okay, how does that help with change?
Well, think about it. When things change, people start making assumptions, misunderstandings happen.
Oh, for sure.
Pathway to Work says we need to be proactive, ask questions, make sure everyone's on the same page, and actually listen to each other.
Yeah, that makes sense because when you don't know what's going on, it's easy to imagine the worst.
Exactly. And speaking of getting clarity, let's move on to their last strategy, Staying curious.
Curious, like asking a lot of questions.
Yes, but it's more than that.
Okay.
Pathway to Work talks about this idea of a beginner's mind. It's like approaching the change with an open mind, ready to learn new things. It's about seeing it as an adventure, not a threat.
So instead of saying, nope, I don't like this change, you say, okay, what can I learn from this?
You got it. And that actually brings us to this really interesting idea that they talk about, the growth mindset.
Wait, the growth mindset, isn't that more of a personal development thing? How does that fit into work?
Well, Pathway to Work says it's a super important part of handling change at work.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
And to see why, we need to break down what a growth mindset actually is.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so remind me, what exactly is a growth mindset?
Well, Pathway to Work says it's like this belief that you can always learn and get better, that your abilities aren't just set in stone.
Okay, so instead of thinking, ugh, I'm terrible at this, you think, I'm not great at this yet, but I can learn.
Exactly. It's about focusing on the potential, not the limitations.
Okay, I get it, but that sounds kind of exhausting, honestly.
I know what you mean. It can be a lot of work.
Like you're always pushing yourself.
True. But Pathway to Work says that's where the real growth happens.
Okay.
Remember Nina from their case study? She didn't just accept the changes at her job. She actually looked for ways to learn the new stuff.
That's true. She totally did.
That's the growth mindset in action.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? How do we cultivate a growth mindset, especially when it comes to change at work?
Yeah, it's easy to say, but when you're in the middle of it, it's tough.
It's easy to just freak out.
Totally. Pathway to Work has some really solid tips, though.
Okay, I'm all ears.
They talk about embracing failure as a teacher.
Whoa, that's a tough one.
I know, right? It's hard to be okay with failing, especially at work.
Yeah, there are consequences for messing up.
Big time. But Pathway to Work says there's a difference between failure and setbacks.
Okay, tell me more.
They say setbacks are going to happen, they're part of the process, but they don't have to, define us.
Okay.
They use Thomas Edison as an example.
Oh, the light bulb guy.
Yep. He famously said, I haven't failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work.
I love that.
Right. It's about looking at those setbacks as information, not as, personal attacks.
So you're not a failure, you're just gathering data.
Exactly. Data that can help you figure out what works.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it goes hand in hand with their next tip, celebrating effort over perfection.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. They say that wanting everything to be perfect can actually stop you from doing anything.
Yeah, because you're so scared to mess up.
Totally. It's better to focus on putting in the work, doing your best, even when you don't have all the answers.
This is making a lot of sense.
Glad to hear it. Because when you're always worried about being perfect, you're less likely to take risks, try new things.
Yeah, you're stuck in your comfort zone.
Exactly. Pathway to Work reminds us that growth usually happens outside of that comfort zone.
How to push those boundaries.
You got it. They use the muscle analogy again. You have to push it to make it stronger.
And sometimes that means being uncomfortable.
For sure. So, embracing failure, celebrating effort. What else do they suggest for building a growth mindset?
Yeah. What else is in their toolbox?
They talk about actively seeking feedback, which can be tough.
Yeah, not everyone loves criticism.
Absolutely not. But they say feedback is super important for growth because it gives you a different perspective.
Like a fresh pair of eyes.
Totally. They say you should be asking for feedback from your coworkers, mentors, even your manager.
That's brave.
And the key is to be open to it, even if it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Don't take it personally, just learn from it.
Exactly. And last but not least, they talk about staying curious.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right. They say curiosity is crucial for a growth mindset because it keeps you open to new ideas and ways of doing things.
It's like that beginner's mind we were talking about before, right?
Exactly. It's about being eager to learn, to understand, and to try new things.
Okay, wow, we covered a lot of ground.
We did. Benefits of embracing change, building resilience, cultivating that growth mindset, it's a lot.
It is, but it's good stuff.
It is. And the best part is Pathway to Work doesn't just tell you about these things. They give you a plan to actually use them.
Okay, so to wrap up, what are the key takeaways that you, the listener, can start using today?
Well, the biggest one is change is going to happen. There's no getting around it.
That's for sure.
The question is, how are you going to react to it?
I'm listening.
You can freak out, resist it, let it control you, or you can embrace it, see it as a chance to grow.
So it's all about our mindset.
Exactly. And that's where Pathway to Work's roadmap comes in.
Guide us to the good stuff.
Build that growth mindset, focus on what you can control, take care of yourself, communicate clearly, and never stop learning.
Those are great takeaways.
These are the tools that will help you not just survive change, but thrive in it.
So it sounds like Pathway to Work is saying that if you have a growth mindset, change can actually be like exciting, not just something to dread.
Exactly. It's not just about getting through it. It's about seeing it as an opportunity.
This whole conversation has been an eye-opener for me,
Yeah.
I used to hate change.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it would totally stress me out, but now I'm starting to see it differently.
That's great. It's a process for sure.
And it doesn't always have to be some huge company-wide thing, right?
Right. It could just be a new project or a new way of doing your work, little things like that.
So even small changes are chances to, like, practice those adaptability muscles we were talking about.
Absolutely. Every little bit helps.
You know what really stuck with me from Pathway to Work?
Yeah.
That advice about changing how you talk to yourself.
Oh, yeah, the internal dialogue thing.
Yeah, like instead of thinking about what could go wrong, ask, what if this is amazing?
It's so simple, but it's powerful.
It really is.
It's like flipping a switch in your brain.
Totally. Instead of seeing change as a threat, you see it as a chance to grow.
Right. You start asking, what if this is amazing? And what can I learn from this?
Exactly.
Right.
You're not just surviving, you're looking for the possibilities.
Maybe that new project that seems scary will actually turn into something you love. Or maybe that company shakeup will introduce you to someone who becomes a mentor. You never know.
It's like opening a door to a whole new world.
I love that. And it's not just work. You can use this stuff in any part of your life where things are changing.
It's so true. It's like a life skill.
Big time.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
Remember, you get to choose how you react to change. Fear or growth, it's up to you.
That's a great takeaway.
Thanks for being here, exploring all this with us. I hope you found it helpful, maybe even inspiring.
Definitely inspiring.
And hey, next time you're feeling overwhelmed by change, take a breath, embrace the unknown, and ask yourself that question. What if this leads to something amazing?
You never know what you might find.
Exactly. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us.